ನುವಾಣಕ್ಕಮುದ ರಶೆ ಗದ ಫಹಕ ಗೆಂದೆವು ಮಟ್ಟಕ PSM ಎಯಾ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಕುರೆವುಮ ಫಹು ಬೋಟು ಕುರವ್ವ
Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohamed Muiz decides that the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board. ECM reveals that the main portal records the time of submission and the nomination form submitted outside the designated submission window will not be accepted. And a national policy on agroforestry is formulated and officially handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Welfare.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz decides that the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board.
The President made the appointment of the agency, referred to in Article 38A of Act No. 30, 2015, Sports Act, under the authority of Article 116A of the Constitution of the Republic of Maldives. The decision was formally communicated today through a presidential directive. The First Amendment to the Sports Act, passed by the President on the 19th of May last year, aims to ensure equality for all in the field of sports. Under the amendment, the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board appointed to implement policies to control the use of prohibited substances in sports, as stipulated in Article 38A of the Sports Act. The Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency, which was previously administered by the Ministry of Sports, Fitness and Recreation, will now be placed under an independent board. The government and any other agency will not have the authority to influence the agency's operations. Speaking to PSM News, Minister of Sports, Fitness and Recreation Abdullah Rafiu said the move will ensure fair and equal opportunities for athletes and bring the Maldives in line with the UNESCO Convention and the World Anti-Doping Agency or AWADA Anti-Doping Code. He added that the decision will play an important role in shaping the country's sports sector in accordance with international best practices. He further said the reform will align national sports activities with globally accepted standards. A bill to comply with the UNESCO Convention and the WADA Anti-Doping Code was adopted at the Second World Conference on Doping held in Copenhagen on the 3rd of March 2003. The bill has since been signed by 191 countries, with the Maldives signing the agreement on the 14th of October. Under the agreement, countries are required to comply with the UNESCO Convention and share all relevant information with WADA, including details on anti-doping practices, policies, and regulations.
The non-resident ambassador of the Maldives to Russia, Abdulrahim Abdullah Latif, presents his credentials to President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, at a formal ceremony held at the Grand Kremlin Palace in Moscow. The credentials were presented during an official ceremony attended by Ambassador Abdulrahim Abdullatif, who conveyed congratulations and best wishes from President Dr. Mohamed Muiz to the Russian President. Lieutenant General retired Abdulrahim Abdullatif was appointed as the non-resident ambassador of the Maldives to Russia on the 11th of March. He currently also serves as the ambassador of the Maldives to Turkey. The Election Commission of Maldives, or ECM, reveals that the main portal records the time of submission and that nomination forms submitted outside the designated submission window will not be accepted.
The commission said the local council elections scheduled for the 4th of April will be conducted in a heavily digitized manner, with candidates required to submit their nomination forms digitally and online. This year's local council and Women's Development Committee elections are among the largest elections to be held in the country. According to the Election Commission's report on constituency determination, 626 councillors will be elected to island councils and 52 councillors to city councils. Of the 133 island councils, some will elect 3 councillors, including a council president and 1 female member, while 46 island councils will elect 5 councillors, including a council president and 2 female councillors. The number of members elected to the Women's Development Committees will be equal to the number of councillors elected to island and city councils. The period for submitting nominations will open on the 17th of January and close on the 1st of February at 3:30 p.m. The Election Commission has enabled candidates to complete the application process through MyPortal. However, completed nomination forms must be formally submitted to the Election Commission on Saturday. The Commission said the early opening of the portal is intended to allow candidates to upload required documents, prepare in advance, and identify any technical or procedural issues encountered during submission. Several key requirements have been outlined for candidates. Applications submitted through the portal will be accepted only during official working hours from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on all days except Sundays. On Sundays, applications will be accepted from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Speaking on the matter, President of the Election Commission, Muhammad Zahid, said administrative arrangements must align with the portal's preset submission times. He said candidates will be informed within 5 days whether their nominations have been accepted. The Commission has advised applicants to ensure that all documents meet the required standards. One mandatory document is a criminal record certificate obtained through the courts. While criminal records are cleared for 5 years for employment purposes, candidates contesting elections are required to have lifetime clearance. Candidates with proven debts have also been cautioned when submitting nomination forms. The Commission said a document confirming that the debt exists and is being repaid regularly must be submitted. Proven debts include court-ordered payments arising from agreements between individuals, child maintenance obligations in divorce cases, and loan repayments to financial institutions. The Election Commission said documents issued by banks or financial institutions must clearly state that repayments are being made on a regular basis, adding that nomination forms will not be accepted if such confirmation is not provided. The Commission said the portal is designed to prevent submissions outside permitted times and to ensure that male candidates cannot contest seats legally reserved for women. Arrangements have also been made to allow independently contesting candidates to seek public support through the main portal. The Election Commission has urged candidates to submit their nomination forms without delay.
A national policy on agroforestry is formulated and officially handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Welfare.
The National Policy on Agroforestry and Trees Outside Forests 2026 was developed by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock in collaboration with World Agroforestry, ICRAF, and the Center for International Forestry Research, or C4ICRAF. The policy was formally handed over to Dr. Ilian Ubalijuro, Director General of World Agroforestry, to Mariam Maria, Minister of Agriculture and Animal Welfare. The ministry said the primary objective of the policy is to establish an economically and environmentally beneficial system by reviving trees in farmland and residential areas across the Maldives. The policy outlines the importance of agricultural development and vegetation regeneration, taking into account the unique environmental conditions and soil-related challenges of the islands. Particular emphasis has been placed on the protection of reeds and coastal vegetation. The policy also highlights highlights the role of agroforestry in mitigating climate change impacts and strengthening food security. The vision of the policy is to transform agriculture into a climate-adapted and sustainable livelihood. Under the policy, incentives will be introduced to empower agriculture-related associations and encourage tree planting. Scientific research will also be utilized to revive and sustainably benefit from indigenous plant species in the Maldives. The ministry said the policy will contribute to environmental protection while increasing agricultural productivity. As a result, it is expected to bring significant economic benefits to the country. Agroforestry refers to agricultural practices that integrate crops with standing trees without clearing tall vegetation. The approach is considered a new agricultural system to be revived in the Maldives. Currently, the most common agricultural practice in the Maldives involves clearing land by cutting down trees. Agroforestry, also referred to as the cultivation of stream-side trees, is recognized as a method that supports environmental protection and long-term sustainability.
The first Zakat Act comes into force with the beginning of the new year following its approval by the President on the 6th of December.
The Act establishes a legal framework for zakat matters in accordance with Islamic principles with the aim of fulfilling the objectives for which zakat is legitimized in Islam. It defines the types of zakat payable under the law, the individuals obligated to pay it, and the categories of property subject to zakat. Several key initiatives have been introduced under the Zakat Act. Among them is the establishment of the Maldives Zakat House, which has been set up as an agency under the Ministry of Islamic Affairs. Another major body formed under the Act is the Zakat Council. The Zakat Council comprises 9 members, including representatives from key religious and financial institutions. Members include representatives from the Ministry of Islamic Affairs, the Supreme Council of Islamic Fatwa, the Ministry of Finance and Planning, the Maldives Monetary Authority, and the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, along with zakat experts appointed by the President. The primary responsibility of the Zakat Council is to provide strategic advice and guidance to the Maldives Zakat House. The Council is also tasked with administrative management, policy formulation, and supervision of the national zakat system. Its first meeting focused on discussions regarding the strengthening of the operational framework of the Maldives Zakat House. The government said the Council will support efforts to strengthen the zakat system by bringing together expertise from various zakat-related fields. Through the exchange of technical knowledge, the Council is expected to enhance the administrative and operational capacity of the Maldives Zakat House, ensuring transparent, systematic, and effective management. The establishment of the Zakat Council and the commencement of discussions on the operation of the Maldives Zakat House marks a significant step towards strengthening the national zakat system and ensuring the effective implementation of the Zakat Act. The Council is expected to provide accurate guidance on zakat matters, address existing challenges, and make zakat-related services more accessible to the public.
Indian and Sri Lankan Coast Guard ships arrive in the Maldives to participate in Exercise Dosti.
Exercise Dosti is a biennial exercise conducted by the Coast Guards of India, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. The exercise began 35 years ago between the Indian and Maldivian Coast Guards, with Sri Lanka participating since 2012. This year's exercise will be held from the 17th to the 19th of this month, according to MNDF. 3 Indian Coast Guard ships, ICG Dornier, ICGS Atulya, and ICGS Vajra, have arrived to take part in the exercise. The Sri Lankan Coast Guard vessel SLNS Suranimila has also arrived. Meanwhile, Indian Coast Guard Director General Paramesh Sivamani arrived in the Maldives for the trilateral joint exercise Dosti 17. Upon his arrival at Velana International Airport, he was received by Mohammad Salim, Brigadier General and Commander of the MNDF Coast Guard. Sri Lanka Coast Guard Director General Rohan Joseph has also arrived in the Maldives for Dosti 17. He was similarly received at Valana International Airport by Brigadier General Muhammad Salim. Officials from the Indian and Sri Lankan Coast Guards have begun arriving in the Maldives to participate in the exercise. This year's exercise Dosti will include search and rescue drills, maritime pollution response exercises, and maritime security-related drills. While the exercise focuses on humanitarian operations, the MNDF has advised the public and those traveling in the exercise areas to exercise caution during the drill period. The MNDF said the exercise will further strengthen relations between the participating countries, noting that ensuring regional maritime security and safety cannot be achieved by any single country alone. India, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives will participate directly in the exercise, while other countries will observe.
Maldives Transport and Contracting Company, or MTCC, states sheet piling on an area of 85 meters of Malay North Side Road has been completed. MTCC said reclamation works are currently ongoing, while water and sewage upgrading works are scheduled to be completed by next week. MTCC said additional works are also underway, including the construction of pavement along building sides, the installation of drainage wells, and the construction of cable junctions. These works are also expected to be completed by next week. The Local Market Road project includes the paving of a 250-meter stretch from the local market area to the North Harbor. As part of the project, the canal will be extended to 6 meters and the road will be widened. Once completed, the roads in the market area will be reconfigured to improve traffic flow and pedestrian safety. The project is also expected to introduce modern road infrastructure and provide a long-term solution to flooding issues in the area. Overall, the project covers a total length of 1,088 meters, extending from the Henveru Ferry Terminal to the North Harbor. The first phase, covering 140 meters, has already been completed. The government said the project is expected to ease congestion in the commercial port area and improve the transportation of goods. The national airline Maldivian says its seasonal integrational flights to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok were well received during the recent holiday period.
Maldivian increases both domestic and international flight frequencies each year during school holidays with the aim of providing greater travel opportunities for the public both within the Maldives and abroad. In line with this policy, the airline expanded services to several destinations during the holiday season. The airline said its seasonal flights to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok operated at high capacity, with most flights running full. Introduced to cater to peak holiday demand, these services attracted strong interest from Maldivian travelers throughout the season. According to Maldivian, more than 2,120 passengers traveled via Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok routes during the period. The airline said this reflects strong demand for regional destinations for short holidays, business travels, and year-end trips during school holidays. The airline said the strong performance of the Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok routes highlights the growing popularity of regional destinations among local travelers and reflects Maldivian's strategy of scheduling flights based on passenger demand during peak travel periods. Meanwhile, Maldivian has also increased flight frequencies to Trivandrum and Cochin in response to demand on other international routes. Some services were operated using larger aircraft, increasing seat capacity and improving passenger service. Additional flights were also operated to Jeddah to facilitate Umrah travel during the holiday season. Maldivian said more than 500 additional domestic flights were operated from mid-December to January to accommodate increased passenger numbers during the holidays, with further flights planned in the coming weeks. The airline also said seaplane operations were expanded to transport tourists to resorts during the busiest period of the year. Looking ahead, Maldivian said it will continue to plan flight schedules based on market demand and introduce special seasonal services. The airline said it also aims to further strengthen its international, domestic, and seaplane operations to meet future transport needs.
Ministry of Tourism reveals more than 99,000 tourists visited the Maldives so far this year.
The ministry said 99,350 tourists had arrived in the Maldives as of the 14th of January. This represents an increase of 9.6% compared to 90,659 tourists during the same period last year. The highest number of tourist arrivals recorded on a single day this month was on the 11th of January, when 9,596 tourists visited the country. While China was the largest source market at the end of last year, Russia emerged as the leading source market during the first 14 days of this year. Statistics show that 16,868 tourists arrived from Russia during the period, followed by 11,987 tourists from Italy, 8,159 from the United Kingdom, 6,245 from Germany, and 5,404 from China. Statistics show that an average of 7,096 tourists are visiting the Maldives each day. The majority of tourists spend their holidays at resort properties. Tourist arrivals to the Maldives have increased significantly in recent years, with a record 2.2 million tourists visiting the country last year.
Looking at business affairs, the regulator of Africa's top gold producer tells Reuters Ghana will scrap long-term mining investment stability agreements and double royalties under sweeping reforms as bullion prices surge.
The moves are part of a sweeping overhaul intended to balance investor confidence with a push to capture more revenue, Isaac Tando, CEO of the Ghana Minerals Commission, said in an interview in Accra. Ghana Stability and Development Pacts traditionally lock in royalty and tax terms for 5 to 15 years in exchange for large investments, typically $300 to $500 million for mine builds and expansions. Beneficiary miners must extend mine life by at least 3 years and grow output beyond 10%, among others, to qualify for renewal. Newmont, AngloGold Ashanti, and Gold Fields are currently under stability agreements. They did not immediately respond to requests for comments. Tando said the changes, to be codified in law, means Newmont's Stability Pact, which expired in December, will not be renewed, and similar arrangements held by AngloGold Ashanti and Gold Fields will be phased out when they lapse in 2027. The new law, expected to be presented to Parliament by March, also proposes royalties starting at 9% and rising to 12% if gold prices hit $4,500 per ounce and above, roughly double the current 3 to 5% range, alongside tougher local content rules on in-country procurement and support for indigenous businesses. Development agreements will be scrapped completely as they've been abused, he said, often raising royalties and local content demands, changes that have periodically sparked clashes with global miners over costs and contract certainty. Ghana pioneered stability agreements in the early 2000s, successfully unlocking billions in foreign investment that built a mining industry strong enough to dethrone South Africa as Africa's top gold producer.
Taking a look at world events, a major fire that broke out early in a deprived area of the upmarket Gangnam district of Seoul is brought under control and fully extinguished about 8 hours later.
The fire that broke out just after 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. GMT on Thursday was fully extinguished at 1:28 p.m., an official said in a statement from the National Fire Agency. While no casualties were reported, 258 residents living in the affected areas of Guruyong village were evacuated, and a total of 324 firefighters and 106 vehicles deployed to put out the blaze. A helicopter was also sent once the haze and fine dust shrouding the city in the morning had lifted. Guruyong village is a pocket of ramshackle housing in Gangnam, one of Seoul's wealthiest districts. It is due to be redeveloped into high-rise residential buildings. Many residents have moved out of Guruyong for the redevelopment, but about 336 households remain, according to the Gangnam District City Planning Department.
Moving on to sports, Australian Open defending champion Jannik Sinner and the home nation's biggest hope, Alex de Minaur, train in Melbourne ahead of the competition.
Sinner is seeking his 5th Grand Slam title and is the bookmakers' favorite to win a 3rd successive Australian Open crown as another title showdown looms the world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz. The Sin Caras duopoly swept all 4 Grand Slam titles in 2025, and their dominance is expected to continue at Melbourne Park, where few in the men's draw appear equipped to challenge, let alone beat them. A Sinner victory would make the 24-year-old Italian the first to lift the Australian Open trophy 3 years running since Novak Djokovic in 2019 to 21. Australia's Alex de Minaur knows there is no hiding at the Australian Open, especially as the country's biggest hope of ending a 50-year drought for a men's champion. De Minaur made his first Australian Open quarter-final last year, only to be crushed in straight sets by Sinner. Generations of home fans have waited in vain for a local winner of the men's event since Mark Edmondson's 1976 triumph, and with Nick Kyrgios in no condition to play singles at the tournament, de Minaur is very much Australia's main man.
Concluding with rather interesting news, toy giant Mattel launches its first autistic Barbie doll created with insights from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. The doll is meant to reflect how neurodivergent people experience the world with intentional design details such as a side-eye gaze and accessories like a fidget spinner, noise-canceling headphones, and a communication tablet. The Barbie also features specific articulation to enable stimming or self-stimulation behavior and hand flipping. Author and content creator Ellie Middleton was among the first people to meet the new doll. After being diagnosed with both autism and ADHD at the age of 24, Middleton founded the Unmasked Community for Neurodivergent People. Calling her first interaction with the doll very emotional, she hopes the doll will help children understand autism better. The new doll follows the footsteps of many other Barbies that were launched to increase inclusiveness among children's toys like Blind Barbie, Barbie with Down syndrome, and Barbie with type 1 diabetes. And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates.